it being a job that was something to do with sales, but I had no idea what unified communications was. I didn't understand SIP. I built a really successful corporate career, bought my first property by myself at 29. And that was the point at which I decided to start the coaching business, because I wanted to help other people that had a passion for something and weren't doing it to the fullest. And that's where the coaching kind of came about, because I remember being kind of young and starting at Broadsoft and not knowing what I wanted to do with my life. And I wanted to be the kind of person that I wish I'd had when I was sort of starting out, that could help me understand how I could do the thing that I was passionate about and make money from it.
Is they have this fear that, hey, if I start posting about my passion on LinkedIn, for example, then my ex-colleagues or my manager or my other professional peers may look at it as awkwardly, and they may question about it, and maybe it will hurt my career, which I'm already doing it. So because of that fear, a lot of people, they never execute things. They plan for it for years, but because of that fear, they never actually execute things. How did you overcome that?
Yes, I'm a certified business strategist, and my goal is to help take online business owners from an employee of their small business to the CEO of their business.
All right, everybody, it's a great pleasure for me to invite my ex-colleague, Lixi. We worked together at Cisco and then before Broadsoft. And I recently found out that, she has started a solopreneur journey. And this always excited because I always, get excited about people leaving their corporate career and started something very different, being self-employed, and then pursue their own passion about helping others. And that's why I invited Lixi to learn from her journey in terms of how did she start this whole journey, what were the challenges, and how is she basically making progress into her solopreneur journey. So without further ado, Lixi, how's it going?
Hello, thank you for having me.
Nice to see you here. So Lixi, tell us about your career background first. How did you start your corporate career? And then what was the light bulb moment for you to kind of think about, okay, maybe I should do something else without, without leaving my job? Because a lot of people think about their entrepreneur journey or solopreneur journey. They always have a fear that, okay, if I have to do something, I have to leave my corporate career and then do something else. But you have started something in parallel, and then there was a moment when you decided to kind of quit your corporate career and then completely go after your passion. So tell us about that.
So yeah, I've just finished nine years at Broadsoft and Cisco, which is a lot. It feels like a lot longer. I can't believe it's only been 9 years. But prior to getting the job at Broadsoft, I was 23. I was a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed young thing. But I had just gotten divorced and was living on a sofa before I got the job in Broadsoft. So I was at the peak of rock bottom. Life hadn't exactly gone the way I had expected it to. And I moved to London for the Broadsoft job. And at the time, I remember it being a job that was something to do with sales, but I had no idea what unified communications was. I didn't understand SIP. And yeah, it was really daunting. But over the next 6 years, over those next 6 years, I built a really successful corporate career, bought my first property by myself at 29. And that was the point at which I decided to start the coaching business, because I wanted to help other people that had a passion for something and weren't doing it to the fullest. And that's where the coaching kind of came about, because I remember being kind of young and starting at Broadsoft and not knowing what I wanted to do with my life. And I wanted to be the kind of person that I wish I'd had when I was sort of starting out, that could help me understand how I could do the thing that I was passionate about and make money from it. So I retrained as a coach and as a business strategist, and now my focus is helping online business owners make more money in their business.
Nice, very, very fascinating story. So how did you get into browser? Because you said, you have no idea about UC and even SIP protocol. A lot of people who apply for these jobs, they have to have basic understanding of TCP/IP protocol and all that stuff. So having no idea about that, how did you get that?
So Broadsoft decided that they were going to hire some graduates. So I would not call it a graduate program. It wasn't where you do, not like at Cisco where you do the placements in the different areas of the business, but they just
Yeah.
specifically wanted to hire some graduates. And I was one of the 6 that got hired. So I think the criteria was basically that you had to have a degree and we thought you'd be good at sales, which I'd already had a job at an insurance company selling products over the phone, and had been
Hmm.
really good at that. So sales is what I'm good at.
Nice.
And yeah, and that's how I got the job at Broadsoft. So it didn't really, they weren't too fussed about the fact that none of us had any telecoms experience, because the idea was that they would train us and teach us. But I
Yeah.
remember being in our first week of training at the Belfast office, and all of us were just sat there while Jed was trying to explain what SIP was and what unified communications was, and we were just sat there like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah. I can imagine it must be going over the head.
Yeah.
Um, okay, that's funny. Um, so what was your light bulb moment for you? Like you have spent 9 years in a corporate world. You might have seen ups and downs, right, in terms of career. What was that moment that you think, okay, this is it. This is I want to pursue.
Mm.
What
So
was that?
throughout COVID, so 2020, I spent the year working on myself and my personal development. And I did a series of challenges that year. So every month I challenged myself to do something new. So it was a month of yoga, or a month of not eating red meat, or I forget what the other ones were, but every month I did something different. And doing that meant that I was really focused on my own development. And I realized that I would really like to help other people with theirs. And I saw an advert for another business coach on Facebook, I think it was. She was doing some sort of free challenge. So I joined it. And yeah, she was the one that kind of gave me the idea of setting up my own coaching business so that I could help other people that were doing similar things to what I was doing.
Nice. Um, and then I think one of and I've seen so many people have this kind of a spark in there, that they wanted to do something different. They want to do something like passionate about, and they want to pursue that as a career, but they never actually execute it. So they keep planning for it and they never execute it. And the reason might be is they have this fear that, hey, if I start posting about my passion on LinkedIn, for example, then my ex-colleagues or my manager or my other professional peers will may look at as awkwardly, and they may question about it, and maybe it will hurt my career, which I'm already doing it. So because of that fear, a lot of people, they never execute things. They plan for it for years, but because of that fear, they never actually execute things. How did you overcome that?
So I started the business on Instagram, which meant that I didn't have to worry about posting in front of all of my colleagues and in the kind of the corporate space, which I
Yeah.
think really helped. And then when I wanted to make the jump to LinkedIn, there was a couple of things that I did. So obviously I had my career at Cisco, and that was always the focus, like making sure that I was doing the work that I needed to, that I was exceeding target. That Cisco was paying the bills, so that was the important thing. So I made sure I followed the right processes at Cisco to make sure that anything I did in the coaching business wouldn't affect my role. So I went to the Cisco ethics board and told them that I was doing this in my spare time. I told my manager, and it just meant that I kind of had those foundations in place to ensure that nothing that I did was going to affect the role that I already had, because I didn't want to leave my when I started the coaching business. I had no intention of leaving corporate. I had goals in Cisco that I wanted to hit. So it was definitely a doing both situation. And then once I'd done that, once I told Cisco and I told my manager, everything felt a lot more comfortable, and it meant that posting on LinkedIn wasn't quite as scary. I will admit the first few times that I posted, I got my VA to help me. So I got a VA in the business. I got her to post the first few things for me so that I got over that fear. But yeah, I think the only reason I managed to get over it was because I'd done the right things and I hadn't kind of kept it hidden and was just sort of slyly putting things out. I made sure that I followed the Cisco processes so that my role was secure.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, this is good, because I think anybody who wants to pursue their career, they actually want to follow the right things. But I think in the initial phase, they always have things like, okay, maybe this will be a failure, so I don't want to burn the bridges, to begin with, and boil the ocean, and to do something which miserably fail. So I think because of that, they actually don't inform their managers or their colleagues about that, until such time when they feel comfortable that yes, this is a time when I think I should be informing others about this, and follow the proper procedure. So I think that could be one of the reasons why people delay this. um, so tell us about your business, Joe. So you are helping other small, medium businesses or online businesses about how they can succeed in their business goal. Maybe it's a leadership coaching. So tell us
Mhm.
about that, and how do you basically acquire clients? Is it
Mm.
like inbound only, when people look at your profile on LinkedIn and they contact you, or is it actively outbound campaigns that you're running? How do you acquire them?
So yeah, so it's a mix of both. So I retrained as a business strategist. I'm a certified business strategist, and my goal is to help take online business owners from an employee of their small business to the CEO of their business, because it's a very different mindset between the two. And the majority of my audience is on Instagram, so I get inbound leads from Instagram and from my website. I also exhibit at events, and one of my goals for this year is to speak in an event as well. And I've been interviewed on quite a few podcasts like this that have then brought clients in. But yeah, it's a mixture of, they'll find me if they're looking for a business coach, but also I do a lot of outreach and engagement with my ideal clients so that they see my name and know who I am. And when they then are thinking about hiring a coach, they think, oh, I know Lix, we've chatted before, let's go and see what she's doing, kind of thing.
Right, right. Okay. And so let's say, if you get a lead, you speak with them, they're interested in terms of your services. What kind of methodologies that you follow to kind of uh, discover their weakness, or I shouldn't say weakness, discover their problems, right? Identify their problems. And how do you basically create a roadmap and say, okay, we're going to do this to solve your problem that you're struggling with?
So yeah, the first thing I would do with any new client is kind of a business audit. So look at what they're doing at the moment, and that's everything from how are you spending your time every day. What's your mindset like? What are the things that you're telling yourself? What are you focusing on? And all the way down to kind of your actual business strategy. What is the strategy for the business? How are you going to make money? How are you going to find clients? How are you going to be visible? And then looking at the profitability of the business as well, because that's something we kind of, I think, is skipped over quite a lot. We quite often think of the income of the business, but we
Hmm.
don't focus so much on the outgoings and therefore the profitability. So that would be the
Yeah,
last one.
yeah. And how do you kind of monetize your effort? I think one of the reason why I'm asking is a lot of people, they have the idea, they start offering their services, but they have no idea about how would they put a dollar amount in front of their services. So they start something random, okay, $100 an hour or something like this. So how do you monetize your efforts?
So I've got two programs at the moment. One of them is 3 months one-to-one coaching with me, which is £1,500 for 3 months, and then I've got a £7 digital product, which essentially goes through everything I would teach you in the one-to-one, but it's do it yourself. You just take the book away and you kind of
Hmm.
work through the exercises by yourself. And how I came up with the pricing and the costs of those was by working with my own coach. Who helped me based on their experience and what they kind of the value that they see in what I can do. They
Hmm.
helped me come up with the pricing.
Yeah. So the other product that you mentioned, is it a digital product that somebody can just purchase from your website and then consume it?
Yeah, so they can either
Yeah.
do just a PDF download or they can buy it from a physical copy from Amazon. So it's an actual work, like an actual book that will be delivered
Nice.
to you, so you can work through it.
Nice, nice. Very good. Um, okay. So how would you encourage the other people? So there's a lot of people, as you know, they're stuck in the 9 to 5 job. They just do that job because it is paying their bills, right? But they're not passionate about it. They wanted to pursue something very different, which could be very different from their corporate work. What is your guidance for them?
I think I think it would be great if it's very different from your corporate work. That's one thing that I really enjoy. I've really enjoyed about doing both at the same time is that what I do in the coaching world is completely different to what I did at Cisco, and it was having the balance between the two that meant I really enjoyed both. I absolutely loved my Cisco job. It wasn't something I wanted to leave at that time, and I really enjoyed doing it. I think because I had a hobby, although I
Mhm.
monetized it, it's still a hobby. It's something that I was doing outside of my normal day to day life that kind of kept the passion alive, as it were. And it meant that I could do both and have fun. And I was fulfilling kind of my creative entrepreneurial side while also doing a job that I enjoyed and that fulfilled me and that brought in kind of the steady income. Although you're monetizing it, having a
Mhm.
hobby outside of your corporate career, I think, is essential. I think we need to do something that kind of makes us feel passionate and want to do other things. And whether it's running a side hustle or a business, or like I said earlier, like training for a marathon, whatever it is, do
Yeah.
something that lights you up and brings you joy. And people will have opinions. Everybody always does. It's what we're great at as humans. But no one's going to question you if you're training for a marathon. They won't worry about how many times a week you're running or how often you're posting about running. And it should be the same if you're managing a side hustle. As long as your employer knows that you're doing that and they're okay with it, the opinions of other people shouldn't come into
Mhm.
it. It should be you doing it because you're enjoying it.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think as long as it is not creating a conflict of interest with your full-time job, I think it should be fine. And
Exactly.
again, it's very subjective. I think people have to consult with their business, their managers, and their company HR department as well.
Yeah, like while I was
Um,
working at Cisco, I wouldn't have taken on coaching clients that worked for competitors of Cisco. Like it just
yeah,
wouldn't have. It would
of
have been a
course.
complete conflict, and it just wouldn't
Oh
have
yeah,
worked.
yeah, that would be a big, big, big red flag. Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. And
yeah,
Cisco wouldn't have liked it, but I also wouldn't have felt like I was working in integrity. I can't be working for a company and supporting their products while also
yeah.
helping people that work for it. It just doesn't work.
Right. And you have been doing this in parallel for the last 3 years, I
Mhm.
guess, right? Um, how did you decide, okay, this is the time when I should just go all in this business and leave my corporate world?
The decision was made for me. I was affected by the latest round of Cisco restructuring.
Oh, okay.
But I had a couple of weeks after I found out where I was creating my CV and looking at other jobs, and then I kind of realized that I've been doing this for 3 years while working full time.
Mm,
I've been gifted an opportunity to do this full time instead of
yeah,
going back into another corporate role and spending the next 3 years still doing it part time. I decided to take the plunge and I stopped looking for a new job, and I'm just going to do it full time.
yeah. And I think this is also give you a bit of a cushion as well, right? So like what happened to you, it happens with a lot of other people as well that I know. And most of them had no backup plan in terms of, pursuing the side hustle. So they are actually in a panic mode in terms of finding another job very, very quickly, because in a high inflation environment, I'm sure the inflation situation in UK is also pretty bad, just like in Canada. So in a high inflation environment, in a recessionary environment where there's not a lot of jobs being posted, it's very hard to get back into the job market. So I think it's essential for anybody who is in their career to do something like a side hustle. So you have a backup plan. If something happens, you lose your job, you have something that you can hang on to it,
Mm.
because you never know how would you end up, after losing your job. It may take 2 months, 3 months, 6 months before you can find another opportunity. So I think this is very, very important. Outside of the passion thing, I think economically this is also very important to kind of protect your finances, as an option B.
Yeah, definitely. I think I it's weird to say it because I know not everyone's going to feel like this, but I actually feel really grateful that I got made redundant, because it has given me the opportunity to do this full time. I think if I'd stayed working at Cisco, I would have carried on quite happily doing both at the same time, and I don't think and it would have taken me a lot longer to take the plunge to do it full time, because having
Yeah,
a secure corporate job is it kind of fills you with, yeah, it makes you feel slightly more secure than running your own business. So I
yeah,
actually feel really grateful that this has happened and that I've been doing the coaching for 3 years already, and I can just kind of step into doing that full time.
yeah. And I think, being having a sales background, it actually helps you to kind of start a side hustle, because we do a lot of other stuff outside of our job, because how to generate leads, how to pursue clients. That is also part of our day-to-day work anyway. But I think when you run your side hustle or your side business, you also learn a lot of other skills that you never learn in your corporate work. For example, how do you manage the accounting, how do you manage the finance, how do you see your revenue is growing or shrinking, how you want to hedge against that, if you're losing clients, how do you make sure that you have big pipeline of clients coming up. So there's a lot of stuff which you don't actually learn in your corporate world, but you actually start learning it in your own business, because you are on your own, right? There is nobody else who is helping you, or coaching you. So you have to basically, strive your way and learn yourself.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's a lot of things that I learned over the decade that I've been in corporate that have absolutely helped me in the business side. It's made me a lot more resilient, because working in corporate sales, you get a lot of no's. So yeah, being able to hear no and not being super affected by it, and
Yeah,
also manage, like we said earlier, managing your calendar, managing to motivate yourself. That's all kind of I've learned that over the last decade. So yeah, that definitely set me up for running my own business. But you're right. Then it's just me. I don't have an
yeah,
SE that I can call on to come and do some of the tech for
exactly.
me. I don't have a renewals manager that's going to get my customers to renew. It's kind of
Yeah,
all on me. But what I've been really strong about is finding other people, other solopreneurs or business owners that I can create kind of a network with, so that I've got other people that are doing the same things that I can call on. I also work with coaches myself, so I've got a business coach that helps me, so that when I've got ideas or problems, I've got someone that I can go and bounce those ideas off. I think one of the misconceptions of being an entrepreneur is that you have to do it by yourself, but you absolutely don't. There are so many other people that are doing it as well that you can kind of call on and work with to make the whole journey a lot easier and a lot more fun.
absolutely, absolutely. I think one of the advantages of running your own business, especially something that is more online and digital, it doesn't limit you into your own country or your own city. You're basically global right away. So you may have a client in North America, like in Canada or in the US, or maybe in Australia, or maybe in Japan, right? So who is impressed from the work that you have done, and they wanted to learn from you. So there's no literally limit in terms of how far you can go and acquire clients, across the world. So
Yeah.
have you seen this kind of a growth so far in your business?
So far, the customers I've had have been Europe based. But my last role at Cisco that I was in for 4 years was a global role. So I was regularly working with teams in Australia and India and the US. So yeah, absolutely, I would be more than happy to work with anybody globally. It's just that my because
Yeah,
I've been doing it part time. I've focused my efforts on my time zone because that's what's worked for me. But
yeah,
yeah, I absolutely would expand globally.
yeah. And then I think that at that time you may need to hire people because you cannot be working 24/7 because of the time zone differences. So you may have people who can be able to basically answer questions and respond to emails coming in from Australia, for example, which is completely different time zone.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure. Or I've seen some coaches who do like different days of the week for different time zones. So they'll do
mhm.
some days where they start much earlier so that they can serve their customers in India, or they'll do days where they'll do much later so that they can look after their customers in the US and that sort of thing. But yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely, you can do it all yourself, or you can hire a team to kind of help you with it as well.
yeah. Well, I wish you can get the growth as early as possible. Um, so before we wrap up the session, if I ask you to tell me or give me your elevator pitch in 60 seconds, that what you do, how do you help your businesses? What do you say?
Yeah, so I help online service providers go from a an employee of their small business to a six-figure CEO.
That's very short and sweet. Okay. Any last comment about your job, or how would you advise the other people in terms of pursuing their careers?
Yeah, my final piece of advice would be that if you've got something that you want to go and do, just because you're working in a corporate job doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. Go and do the side hustle or the hobby or whatever it is that you feel passionate about, because the world deserves it. Whatever it is that you feel passionate about, the world deserves to see that. And the majority of corporate companies now will be okay with you doing that. And if they're not, it's probably not a corporate company that you want to be working for anyway, because they should be encouraging you to be creative and to follow your passions as long as it's not affecting your day to day work.
Absolutely. And I was also following up a couple of solopreneurs, and one of the message that hit me hard was every single person in the corporate world have something to deliver, which is unique about them. But you have to find out what is unique about yourself. It could be something about business coaching. It could be about consulting. It could be helping other business leaders to even manage the calendar, or something else. There has to be something that you can definitely do excellent way, and you can use that particular skill to monetize your efforts. I
Hmm.
think all of us who are watching or listening to this podcast, find out what is that unique thing about yourself, and start exploring it, and see if you can build a business around that. So that would be my last comment.
Absolutely.
Well, Lex, thanks very much. Thanks for your time here. I wish you all the best for your business, and
Thank you so much.
let's keep connected together, and then we'll do another podcast sometime later.
Brilliant. Thank you for having me.